Hello YouTubers, and welcome to another video. Today I have a very, how do I say, a cult object in the audiophile world, and that's the Chord Qutest. So I think it was only a matter of time before I tried the Qutest, as I was so in love with the Chord Mojo. I think this is a device that kind of like, some devices in your journey kind of like just take you up a notch. They open doors and then you can't go back. I think the Mojo 2 was one of those devices. So when I started looking for a DAC, the idea of the Qutest wasn't a difficult one to appear. Let's put it that way. Although I was hesitant to get it because it's quite expensive, super expensive, this thing, and it doesn't have any function other than DAC. Yeah, so in the living room I got a power amp, but I don't have a preamp because I was silly enough to get a power amp on its own without a preamp. So to connect the Qutest to that, I had to use my Aun S17 Pro from my headphone amp. I'm using it as a preamp just to be able to use this. So it's not just the cost of this; it's the cost probably of a preamp that I have to think about. As I look to add a new DAC downstairs, and I started like with the Audiolab CDQ 8300 CDQ. I thought that'd be. I got the amp. The amp is Audiolab. I'm just gonna have that has a DAC inside. I can connect to USB. It's got preamp features, whatnot. But I wasn't really in love with the sound. Coming out of there, so then I got an MDAC, which is this one here, and the sound was so much better. But the MDAC is a bit of a weird device because it doesn't serve as a preamp as well. So anyway, cut the long story short, I ended up saying, sod this, I'm just gonna get the Qutest. I got it from a shop in Germany that is secondhand. So. Or returns that those returns. So I was very excited about it, because I was getting a little bit tired of trying like different DACs and things. So, and my initial impressions were like amazing, right? So I've lived with it for like a few weeks now, and I've listened to tons and tons and tons and tons of music with it. I left it on overnight. I use a battery to power it to cut a little bit of the some harshness that it's got in the higher mids, lower trebles. I fooled around with it, but before I go into that, the quality and feel. Look, guys, I don't know, you don't really get an impression of how good this feels in your hand until you touch it. It's really heavy, solid metal. There's nothing here that looks like it's going to break, except the RCA ports here, which seem to be like kind of floating, and you do notice. And the BNC connectors here, coaxial, and everything's a little bit floating. Yeah, so the whole circuit is where these are attached to is kind of floating. There might be a reason for that, but when you do connect the RCAs, and that's the only thing you can connect to this, you do notice some wiggle here. It's got a micro USB, and I understand why the Mojo 2 has micro USB because of the poly, and that's what they told you. But I don't know, is this supposed to connect to something else as well that has a micro USB only? When's the Chord gonna sort of stop that? I mean, I think it's pretty stupid. I mean, if it was a good port, but it's not even a good port. So just get it sorted, Chord. I know that they got a cult following. You don't need to do anything. You'll carry on selling. People like me, but at some point you have to stop making micro USB, right? So anyway, construction wise, it feels really solid bar, like that. It reminds me of the Cobalt, or some Audio Quest. Yeah. So basically, there's a circuit, and the circuit's floating. I mean, that might be on purpose, actually. You got a funky window here. It's got some buttons here. It's a lot easier to use than the Mojo 2 because you don't have any functions here. Input, and then here is the filter and the filters are quite hard to tell apart. I tried to use mine on the red, which is like the warmest one, because I was getting a little bit shrill in the sound. So yeah, it's a lot easier to use than the Mojo 2, so you don't be put off by this. I think it actually looks cool. You can select like the voltage out if you want, but you can read the instructions there. There's some functions there, but there's no equalizer or anything like with the Mojo 2. So if you're looking for that, then not going to find that. But in terms of quality, that's it. In terms of sound, I think in terms of sound, it's. I was talking about DACs that are good and DACs that are outstanding, and the Qutest is an outstanding DAC, and it's an outstanding DAC because it opens your music to stuff that wasn't there before you added it. Not in the sense that this is coloring the sound or whatnot. It's just taking a lot more information from that sound signal and making it into your speakers. So. From that perspective, the Chord Mojo is really good. It's an outstanding DAC. You will definitely notice it. It's a step up from a lot of the stuff I've tried. A step up from the Mojo 2, a step up from the Audiolab MDAC, a step up from the RME ADI2 FS. So the Chord Qutest has sounded better to me on my system than a lot of the other stuff out there. And for that, I think this is an outstanding DAC. I think the thing that I feel with it is like there's the sound is really clear and open, and like sometimes people talk about losing sense of where the speakers are. I think this is kind of that sort of experience. You kind of like, if you let yourself go, you can lose sense of where the speakers are. And that's a good thing for a lot of music, although sometimes I do find that the mids or the vocals could be a little bit more forward, so it always seems to me that I'm listening to music, with my buddies at the back instead of like where the action is. But of course that depends on what type of, for jazz, for example, that works really well, and for other types of music it works really well. But there are some music that you want to be a little bit closer to where things happen, but with the Qutest you don't get that sense. So for example, I compared it mostly against the topping D93 discrete, because they're similar price, although the topping's got a lot more functions and whatnot. But in terms of sound, for a little while I was giving the Qutest the edge, because I could definitely appreciate like the way that the Qutest kind of renders three-dimensional sound, and how every string has got like, it's not just a flat sound, it's got like some kind of meat to it, and I really appreciate that in the Chord Qutest here, and for some time I that kind of kept me going back to the Qutest. But then as I got used to the sound profiles of these two, I found myself going to the topping more and more and more compared to the Qutest. And the reason I was doing that was, I think, because I was getting a much more closer experience with the topping. And that was true both with the speakers and with headphones. I was just getting like, like if it was just a singer and a guitar, for example, you want to you feel really close, right? So you can feel like the singer's singing right here and the guitar is kind of right there, so because you're close to the action. With the Qutest, I couldn't get that. It was nice, but it was almost like I was above it, looking at it, or there was no sense that I was actually in it or part of it. And with the topping, I did that. And plus the topping, in terms of resolution, the Qutest is really nice. And it's not just the resolution; it's how it makes that resolution holographic. Like it's quite incredible. But the topping is, I think, even more resolving. I think this manages to extract a little bit more detail. It's not as holographic, but it's so clean and actually it's got a lot of body. When you have like effects like whoa, the one to the other, you can really feel the body of that going on, and it all happens with you at the center of it, right? With the Qutest, it all happens with you a little bit further back, and I guess that's a little bit up to what you like. But as I started listening to these a little bit more and more and more, I was leaning towards the topping in the end. Because there's one thing with the Qutest that I'm about to tell you, and I think there's people in the forums and things that talk about these things, which is the harshness, right? So it's so confusing because people say it's really smooth, and it is, but actually I couldn't never stop having that harshness, and then I thought it was the power supply, and then I thought it was the power supply. So then I used a power bank, and then I thought it was the laptop connected to the power. So then I used an Audio Quest jitterbug. Then I unplugged the laptop from power. Basically, I went through a lot of effort to sort of get rid of that kind of a ringing, or especially in like the female vocals, like that made me kind of contracted. I wanted to sort of drop the volume, and that I was having that with the Qutest here. And initially, I was actually having that as well with the topping here, because I think this is quite a bright device as well. But of course, I was connecting the Qutest to the AUN S17 Pro and then to the amp, so the signal was going through that Class A preamp. When I put the signal from the topping through the Class A signal, all of a sudden, any hint of kind of like treble harshness that the topping had previously when I connected it directly to the amp was gone. So then the topping was actually a lot better. Well, a lot is subjective, but better than the Qutest. So that's where I am right now. I would love to keep them both and have both on rotation. Today I feel like this, today I feel like that. But I have to make a decision, and at the moment, my heart is with the topping. It's got more features. The sound is closer and more intimate. It's got, although the soundstage is a lot closer and intimate, you still have all of that beautiful kind of like imaging going on. So you get a lot of what the Qutest gives you. Okay, the Qutest might be a little bit more organic and relaxed, but when the music goes up a pace, the topping responds to that a lot better. And I like a lot of soft kind of calm music and stuff, but I also like when the music goes up a tempo, and the topping D93 discrete manages that transition better, I think, than the Qutest. So that's so that's my 2 cents, so this is the legendary Chord Qutest. I think, if you can listen to this, remember, like there are some DACs which are good and bad and good and bad and good and bad, and then there are some which are outstanding. The Qutest, I think, is in the outstanding ground. For me, that shrillness in the upper mids really made me question it. Also a sense of I'm too far from the music. Also kind of not exactly to my liking, and of course the existence of the brand new 1-bit DAC topping D93 discrete made my decisions quite tricky, because this is such a good device. So it's awkward, it's whatnot, but it does something different, and it adds something different to your system for sure. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Thank you to my subscribers. I really appreciate you guys supporting me and the channel, and all the likes, and it always helps. Thank you so much, and I see you around.